you're just not going to ask me how Dobbs' tooth thing went today. So
Bro, I didn't know. So
you're just not going to
wish me a happy birthday.
So you just don't take interest in hockey anymore.
So
you don't take interest in my dog's dental procedures anymore.
I've been texting
you don't take interest in my interest.
Dude, you don't take interest in my wife's birthday.
I didn't know. Welcome to Downshift. My name is Matt.
And my name is Paulo, and we just got done spending a week with the new Acura ADX.
And this is Acura's new entry into their SUV lineup. It slots into the lower end. It's a little bit smaller, it's a little bit more affordable, but it's still plenty luxury and plenty Acura. And I'm gonna walk you through everything that you need to know.
Yeah, then we're gonna get behind the wheel and talk about our standouts for the week.
Let's do it. Now before we cover the main event here, we're going to zoom in and cover some of the funky little odds and ends. Like for one, you do have Bang & Olufsen's sound, which actually is pretty impressive in something like this, but it goes a step further. You have this Beosonic tone and surround, and then you can get it really dialed in to exactly how you want your sound to sound. That's pretty cool. And Acura really wants you to like their new ADX so much so that they've gone ahead and ribbed all of this hard touch plastic in the trunk, on the lower portion of the rear door card, and the lower portion of the front door card. And why does anyone rib anything? Well, it's for your pleasure, of course, behind the wheel of your ADX. And in classic fashion, if you put your foot on the brake, the engine start-stop will glow white, and if you actually press it, then it'll turn red. Another cool thing that changes color is this white halo surrounding your temperature control dial. It's a knurled silver plastic, but it's really cool. When you make it colder, it goes blue. And when you make it warmer, it goes red. It's very Mercedes indeed. We have sync on, so it was also affecting the passenger side. But if I were just to do the passenger side, then you would just get the color on the corresponding side. And one thing I really appreciate, even though we just have a CVT, these shift paddles are legitimately metal. Hope you can hear that. And your cup holder situation's also a little bit funky. They're split, so you've got one up here with a little extra area here to maybe, I don't know, put a wallet, and then you've got a secondary cup holder back here. It's a little bit bigger, so if you've got a larger water bottle, it might be able to fit a little bit easier back here. But one thing this car is missing is XM radio. You've got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, as you'd probably expect, when you have FM radio, and where did it go? There's an AM radio there, I swear, but there is no XM radio. I've even gone so far as to check the voice assistant to see if I just missed it, but turn on XM radio.
I looked for XM radio, but it either isn't available or can't be played right now.
And down in your center console, you do have your drive select toggle, your dynamic modes, and you've got snow, and then you've got comfort, and then you've got normal, and you've got sport, but you also have one more that's not controlled by this dial. Like, it's its own special little button, and that is your individual or fully custom mode. If you hold the button, then you can go in and customize things exactly how you want. Another thing I like, one of my favorite buttons, is this little camera button on the end of the stalk here. You do have 360 cameras, which you won't have in the little cousin HRV, and they're pretty good. You've got side or curb tolerances, so you can help parallel park easier, or if you're gonna go off-roading, I don't know who's doing that, but you could. And you've got the little dipped forward-facing camera that we noticed in the TLX Type S last year. But I just love the fact that it's on this little button and I can access it super easily and quickly. And in the little cousin HRV, you have a sticker here that designates all-wheel drive, but in your full tuxedoed out ADX, you've got an actual legitimate badge. Hey guys, real quick, Matt here. Just wanted to say I hope you've been enjoying the video. If you have, would really appreciate you hitting that subscribe button. I know it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it does go a long way in helping us get access to cars sooner and get access to manufacturer engineers so we can get more information on the cars and get you more information so you can make better decisions. So would really appreciate you hitting that subscribe, like, comment, the whole YouTube thing. But with that, let's get back to the video. All right, so with all those little things covered, let's zoom back out and start up at the top. What is this ADX? This is the first ADX from Acura, so what is it and what does it compete against? Well, like I mentioned, this is the first time we've ever seen an ADX from Acura. It is their small or subcompact or entry-level SUV. You can kind of think of it as an SUV version of an Integra, perhaps. But it also is the biggest in the class. It's only about 2 inches shorter than Acura's compact or bigger tier up RDX. And that means it then competes against things like Lexus UX, Volvo XC40, Mercedes-Benz GLA GLB, BMW X1, maybe X2, Audi Q3, and an Alfa Romeo Tonale. but it's pretty big and surprisingly spacious compared to all those, which we'll get into later in the video. But then as we pop under the hood, we'll talk about what's going on. We have one powertrain or engine on offer here in the ADX. It is the Honda Acura 1.5 turbocharged 4-cylinder. It makes 190 horsepower and 179 pound-feet of torque in this ADX, which means it's good for 0 to 60 in around the 9-ish second mark, which doesn't make it incredibly fast, but you know, it is what it is. Now, in terms of fuel economy, you're looking at about 27 or 28 mpg, depending on whether you go for all-wheel drive or front-wheel drive, but the truth is those are EPA numbers, those aren't downshift numbers. We did our Lakeshore Loop fuel economy combined driving test, and we got about 30.9 mpg. Now, that does tend to flatter vehicles a little bit, but it is going to outperform what the EPA says. The thing is, though, I would like to see a hybrid offering here. I think just in 2025, so many rivals are bringing hybrids. It does seem to be in high demand, and I think Acura would do well to introduce a hybrid to their lineup. But hybrid or not, that power goes through a CVT transmission to either front or all-wheel drive. It's not Acura's typical SH or super handling all-wheel drive, but it still is going to get traction to all four corners. And then in terms of dynamics, this thing is about 3,600 pounds. It's fine. It's totally fine. It's technically the slowest in the class, I believe, but it is noticeably faster than its Honda cousin, the HR-V. It does have a little bit of turbo lag, but there's a little bit of turbocharged drama, so that does help. Cabin isolation is decent, not amazing. There's some road noise, but it is still, I would consider, luxury tier. And it does handle well. That was kind of the nicest thing that I noticed about this thing. It bit into a corner, it drove well. It's got strut front and a multi-link rear suspension, and the steering feels pretty good as well, as I would expect from a Honda and Acura product. The ride is decent, and overall, it's not a bad thing behind the wheel. But then we'll talk about styling, and the first thing I want to talk about is this paint. Now, this isn't your typical Nardo gray, milky, no dimension paint. This is Honda Acura's Urban Gray Pearl, like we had on the TLX last year, and like we had in our HRV. I'm sorry, I keep mentioning the HRV. We were just in it earlier today. But it looks fantastic. I love the tone, the dimension and metal flake that you get when the sun hits it in direct sunlight. It's a $600 option, and I think it's totally worth it. But up front, you have a very Acura face. You've got LED headlights as standard. You've got Acura's typical shield grille, and your lower front fascia is a little bit embellished with, you know, more aggressive splitter looking lower pieces and then some LED fog lights. Around the side, you do have gloss black wheel arches, and you can see you have almost a comically long hood. But you do have 18 or 19-inch wheels. We've got the upgraded 19s for our A-Spec with Advance, and your front fender badge gets you that little A-Spec designation as well. You've got black window treatments and wing mirrors, and the profile is a pretty easy curved shape. And around the back, you've got LED taillights as standard. They're a little bit more smoked finish to the casing, and they look cool. And you've got dual exhaust outlets out back. And then we'll go ahead and open the trunk. And unlike the Honda counterpart, you do have powered opening and closing tailgate. You've got a button here and a little walk-away lock feature. With the rear seats up, you're looking at about 24 cubic feet of space. That's a pretty decent size. You've got things like LED lights back here, along with some of the ribbing. You've got a 12-volt outlet back here, and you've got some underfloor styrofoam cubbies, and under here you have a spare tire. It's temporary, but it is nice to have. You can fold the rear seats from the trunk here, well, kind of, it's really the back of the rear seats, but with those seats down, you're looking at about 55 cubic feet of space, which makes this a nice, big, and practical cargo area. Full points to the ADX. And then we'll step up to the rear seats. We'll do our door test. Doesn't quite open 90 degrees, but probably still pretty practical to get people and things in the back. No window shade, but you do have a little bit of scratchy black plastic up here. Leather wrapped and padded armrest, which is nice, with some contrasted lighter red stitching down here. Some ribbing again, continuing. But back here, you've got actually a really impressive space back here, at least for 6-footers, which I'll show you in a second. But I do want to take a minute to appreciate this nice red interior with the black micro suede or Alcantara inner. Really, really love the leather that Acura puts in these cars, and the ADX is no different. So I'll step in. I'm 6'1", sitting more or less behind myself, and I've got several inches of knee room in front of me. This is a subcompact SUV, and I've got this much knee room. That's pretty awesome. We flip the camera around, and we see that I still have, I need a haircut, but I still have about an inch of space above my head, which is really, really nice. And that's including the panoramic roof, which is standard on A-Spec and A-Spec with Advance like we have here. We also have 2 vents back here, 2 USB-C chargers, and we've got some cup holders and an armrest. So really pretty nice features, and overall just an incredible use of space in the back. So you could actually and legitimately fit 6-footers comfortably in the back seat. And then we'll move up the cabin to the front seats. Now we do have 2-person memory, which is pretty nice. Of course, we've got full power controls and the same kind of white with black accented micro suede and Alcantara continues in the front. These are really, really comfortable seats. We've got perforations because we've got 3-level heated and 3-level cooled seats here on our Acura ADX A-Spec with Advance. We've also got a heated steering wheel. So all of the typical luxuries that you'd expect, you got them here on the ADX. And then as we take a moment just to talk about the overall cabin experience, I have to say I'm really impressed with what Acura has been able to do here to make this feel really pretty upscale for something like an entry or subcompact SUV. Now, let's take a look at the interior color. We've talked about this red with the black, but imagine if the red was an off-white and then the black was kind of like a royal or almost navy blue. That would be probably what I would get. That's the orchid with blue interior, which is really, really cool. This red is great, but the orchid with blue would be incredible. Just my personal taste. But overall, you have an incredible variety of textures and colors and patterns. The leathers here are fantastic. The materials and the build quality overall are top-notch, as I would expect from Acura. I've always been pretty impressed with some of the stuff that they put in their cabins. Them and Lexus are kind of at the top of their game. Some of the leather qualities and things like that. The shifter is nice, purposeful, notchy, and feels good. And it just looks and feels kind of nicer than a lot of other things in the class. The Lexuses and the Alfa Romeos, to be sure, maybe even a Volvo and even a Mercedes. Some of the materials and quality here, pretty top tier. And as we start to talk about technology, it's pretty good here, full stop. There's one thing missing: you don't have a head-up display. I don't really need or care for a head-up display in something like this, so I don't really care. You do have a fully digital instrument cluster though, which is nice. You've got little dials on each side of the steering wheel to control each of the sides of the screen. Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, Alexa, all that stuff. And then over here, more car-specific things: navigation, driver attention, torque distribution, and things like that. We've also got, I forget what Acura is calling it, but the Honda Safety Sense system. It's decent, it functions, but it does ping pong me in my lane a little bit more than I would like. But overall, on straight highways, in between cities, just kind of like rural areas, it does take a little bit of fatigue out of the equation, so I do think that that's pretty nice. We do have a 9-inch center screen here. It's got Apple CarPlay wireless, Android Auto wireless. You've got Google built in, as you can see, Maps, the Play Store, the whole thing. We've also got a wireless charging pad, so there's really no need to bring wires, but if you did bring them, you would have USB-Cs. And of course, you've got things like Alexa and everything built in. You've got 360 cameras, as we talked about before. Maybe I should throw it into reverse so you can actually see them. Pretty good. There does seem to be a little tiny darked film, which is kind of why you're getting some of the pulsing on the camera here, but overall, the system works perfectly fine. It is missing that Sirius XM thing, but overall, from a tech perspective, most of what I'm using every day is going to be in Apple CarPlay. So with that and the built-in Google system here, still, I think it's pretty good. And the last thing that we'll talk about together before we get back with Paulo and go for a bit of a drive is the price. Now, an ADX starts at $37,000. You're gonna get your A-Spec trim that starts at about $40,000, and us topped out with our A-Spec and Advanced trim, we're looking at about $44,000 to start. Add about $2,000 for all-wheel drive across the board, and our $600 urban gray paint with Destination we're testing at about $46,000. And that's a bit of money, but there's also quite a bit of car here. So let's get with Paulo, talk pros and cons, and see if it's worth it.
It's very slow. I'll talk about my likes real quick.
Okay, yeah, let's do it.
I really like the design philosophy that
Yes.
Acura's been rocking the last couple of years. Like
Handsome.
the grille, the headlights and taillights look so good to me. I think this is an incredibly good looking SUV.
Agree.
Really,
Next.
really like it. I think that the seats are extremely comfortable. The seating position is good. The bolstering for me is really good as well. Over here, you know what?
I don't know, it just sounded like you said bolstering.
I said bolstering.
No, but the seats are nice.
Oh, that's funny. I do say some things weird. I also think
That one wasn't that bad. I went looking for that one.
Sometimes I think I say no. Okay, anyway. I think that I think it has most of the features that you'd probably want in a luxury SUV: heated, cooled seats, heated steering wheel.
Yeah.
It's got like the auto
The
angle mirrors, which is really nice. So you got a panel
360 camera,
360
panel
camera,
roof,
panel
yeah.
roof, which is
Digital
really nice.
gauge cluster.
Oh, I will thank them for their UI. You can customize what buttons you have on the screen, which is like a big complaint that I've had in like the Chevys that are like all screen, no buttons. So I put this 360 camera button right here, which is really nice.
I didn't tell you this actually. We got a lot of comments
you
because
can
you can do it in, in the GMs. I didn't want to hurt your feelings, so I wasn't going to tell you. Well, I was just hoping you would never bring it up again.
I appreciate you telling me.
But that is nice. It's a nice system here.
So you can do it on those Chevys. Great.
And the camera.
So I'm a fraud.
Yeah, I guess so.
So
top 5 car reviewers on YouTube. top 2, but I'm not 2.
You didn't know either, so...
I didn't, but I didn't make a whole thing about it.
Yeah, that's true.
So I got away with my ignorance.
Yes. Sometimes I just need to shut up.
Tell me more stuff that you like.
Yeah, I really like the Bang & Olufsen sound system.
That is actually really nice. B&O system here is real good.
It's incredible. And I like these speaker design in here. Yeah. It's kind of like a unique look to them.
Yeah, it's different. It's not like a metal grill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's cool.
So you got the speakers up here. I did have someone complain that you don't have a handle on the passenger side, but it's like, yeah, you have a speaker. You have a speaker instead. So those were the main things that I liked.
Yes, I agree with all those things. It's good. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
What do you not like?
The things that I don't like, I wish it had a bigger screen in here. I like the digital dash. I think that's a decent size, but I wish that was a little bit bigger. I think that there's quite a bit of road noise that you get, and I don't know if you upgraded the tires, if some of that would go away.
I think Acura's added a little bit more like cabin refinement and sound deadening, but at its core, it still is like the same chassis, the same vehicle at its core in the sheet metal as an HRV. So it's just inherently not as like robust,
right,
or things like that.
I also think that the powertrain is a little bit slow and quite boring, to be honest with you. 1.5.
It's better than the HRV though.
CVT. Yeah.
The HRV is anemic. This is less anemic.
Yeah. It is. Yeah. Yeah. I wish it had the 2-liter though turbo 10-speed that you get in the MDX.
The RDX is the one above this, and it's real good. Super handling all-wheel drive. This gets all-wheel drive, but it's not the super handling all-wheel drive from Acura. And that 2-liter turbo in the RDX is real good. I haven't driven one in a few years, but it was one of the first cars I drove when I was doing downshift videos. And I remember just really, really liking that car. So anyway, we'll leave that there until we get an RDX to test. Was there anything else that you didn't like?
I mean, I feel like we say this about every car, but like it's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
For what it is.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're going to compare it to the HRV. We shouldn't be comparing it to the HRV, but you know, when it's the similar chassis and things like that, I think what's maybe a better thought exercise is like this competes against things like the Lexus UX.
X1,
I would have
Q3.
this over a UX certainly.
Yeah.
Huge rear seat, pretty big trunk, way more spacious up here, more modern tech. Well, I don't know. I haven't been in a UX recently, but the last time I was in a UX, it just felt like really small, kind of cheap, really cramped. Yeah. This feels huge for what it is.
And realistically,
so I really like that.
This probably competes closest with that versus like an X1 or a Q3.
Yeah, the BMWs, the Mercedes, the GLA GLBs, they're going to be a bit bigger, have more power and then like engine to them. But they're going to be more expensive. And I would say that the interior materials here, the leather work, and even some of the plastics, like it feels like a more expensive item sitting in here and experiencing the cabin versus an X1 versus a GLA GLB and an X2 even. So a Q3, same thing.
Yeah.
So I think this is a nice place to sit. Money, when we're in the luxury segment, it's hard to talk about like value proposition. We talked about this with the Rolls Royce, but like I think what you're getting here, it's not super fast, but it's hugely spacious. It looks good. The tech is pretty decent. The materials are good. The build quality is there. Yeah, I like it as long as you're okay with the price.
I'd be eager to try it in the Type S.
Yeah, if they came out with the Type S of this, that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe they will. So with that, thank you to thank you to Acura, excuse me.
Wow.
Either way, thank you, Lynn, for letting us have a go in the Acura ADX. And thank you to you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye, guys.